While most MSPs are out there hunting endlessly for new clients, the smart ones know their richest opportunities lie in the fields they already own. My name's James Steele and this is Harvest, where MSPs and industry experts share proven ways to grow profitable revenue from your current customer base. No theory, no fluff, just field-tested strategies that work. Let's grow.
I'll say, listen, I'm brand new. I know nothing. I'm here with open eyes, open ears, ready to listen. This is James. He's here to squeeze more money out of you and make sure you don't go anywhere. You've got to remember, just throwing a body at the problem is not enough. You're like, well, he's never set a meeting with me, or she's useless. I can never get her time. You have to take control of your own on board. We win new business and we ring the bells and they get commissions and sales are lauded as champions on the shoulders of the business. And then when somebody retains an account, they're like, oh, well, we're going to lunch or what's happening next? Problem with account management is it's a dumping ground. That's where everything, it's like the bottom drawer of the kitchen. That's like where everything goes nobody else wants or nobody knows what to do with.
It's no secret that sales is a huge challenge for MSPs all around the world. So why is it then that so few people in the space are talking specifically about account management in those terms? Well, fortunately today I'm joined by Warwick Brown, the CAM coach. He spent 25 years turning account management from boring maintenance into something of a growth engine. In the next hour, Warwick is going to reveal his client handoff system, the exact questions that position you as that all-important trusted advisor we hear so much about, and why managing your boss is actually your secret weapon. Plus, discover how AI trend research transforms you from being a vendor into a strategic partner. That really is a brilliant tip. Honestly, the whole thing is pure gold for anyone who's serious about growing your existing account. So, don't miss this. Grab a notepad, and for this one, you're going to need to check the show notes too. All right, enjoy. See you on the other side. Warwick Brown, an absolute pleasure to have you on Harvest. And you are somewhat unique in the sense that your specialism is all around account management. And that is something that all the MSPs listening are going to need some advice on. So I cannot wait to dive into that with you. But before we do, can you please give me a misconception about you? What do people get wrong about you when they first meet you?
Well, I think just about key account management in general. Well, firstly, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
You're welcome.
That key account, that customer retention isn't sexy. That it's boring. That it's just routine. Whereas for me, customer retention is a growth engine in the business. I think we need to change the narrative that we win new business and we ring the bells and they get commissions and sales are lauded as champions on the shoulders of the business. And then when somebody retains an account, they're like, oh well, we're going to lunch or what's happening next? Very boring and routine. I think it should be, reconsidered in terms of the importance. And when you renew an account, you're renewing it. They know everything about you. Sales are selling the dream. They're selling the greener grass that could be full of empty promises, but the client doesn't. The prospect doesn't know that. You're the person retaining a customer, and they know all the bugs. They know all the issues. They know all the, failed KPIs and SLAs, and they still renew. That's talent, as far as I'm concerned. So that's the misconception.
There is, you're right. There's a kind of a gap there, isn't there? So there's that sort of like that initial, wow, I've got the new solution, and then there's the reality of what it is I've been delivered. And so if you're able to keep that relationship going through that's an absolutely critical phase, isn't it? That's I
renewed a £12 million account once. Went through rings of fire to secure this business after being with us for 5 years. They were ready to leave, but I managed to keep them. Didn't even get an email from the GM saying congratulations. The new sales guy won a $100,000 piece of business, which was barely worth getting out of bed for. Bell rang, taken out to lunch, rest of the afternoon off. And I just thought, what's wrong with this picture?
Where's the recognition there? Well, you'll be pleased to know this podcast is all about expanding business from existing accounts. So you'll definitely get the recognition for the advice and guidance. So listen, I thought the best way to structure this chat, because there's so much and so little time, so much we could talk about. I think when we're talking about MSP account management, it would be nice to really take it from the basics, because so many people listening to this maybe won't have, or they'll have some account managers, maybe they're not quite structured, not entirely sure that they've got the process ironed out. Let's think about this. For an MSP, bringing an account manager in and it's their first day on the job. Let's just take it from the account manager's point of view. what should they be doing first of all? So they've got this book of business. They can see we've got some customers we've been working with for years, all taking different levels of services, engaged at different levels. Sometimes it might just be a single, just come in and bought like a single laptop, for example. Sometimes it might be more of a, an ongoing managed recurring service. How do we begin prioritizing? Where do we start?
Look, there's a few things to think about. I think, number one, if you're ready to hire an account manager, you have to remember that you're at the point where you're going to be sacrificing some agility for scale and consistency, right? When you're starting a business and it's small, you can do whatever you want, and you can do it tomorrow, and you can do it however you please. Once you start to get bigger, you've got to start to build processes, systems, so that you can have a consistent customer experience, so that the people delivering account management know what to do, so that there's ability for you to transfer knowledge and do things in a way that is resource efficient. So that's number one. Get into that mindset that it's not going to be the same as it used to be. Number two, you've got to remember just throwing a body at the problem is not enough. You can't just say, oh, we hired a key account manager and say, all yours, do whatever you want. We see
that a lot, actually. That's really interesting. Yeah, that happens a lot. It's just like, that's it. There's a body there now, so that'll get better.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't have integrated systems, if you don't have the right tools, if you don't have authority and autonomy and decision-making rules in place, if you don't have them empowered, if you don't have the rest of the organization aligned and committed to the vision that you're trying to, of the value you're trying to create with an account manager, if you don't have executive sponsorship, if you don't have budget, if you don't have a value proposition of what this role will deliver to the customer, why would the customer meet with them? They're like, well, what is an account manager? What do we get from them? And then if you don't have a bit of an idea around segmentation so that you're not going same account management service to everybody. I've got some people that I coach, they've got 100 accounts, but nobody's told them what the difference in account management service is between the top accounts and the bottom accounts, and there's really blurred lines. So again, you got to think about, all right, sure, great, hire somebody. That's fantastic that you're now in that place where that's going to create some value. But also think about the dependencies. Even aligning bonuses and performance targets and compensation. You can't have the account manager targeted with this while it's in conflict with other departments, or if what you have to achieve as account manager, other departments couldn't care less about or aren't compensated on it. Why would they bother? Where's the motivation? So there's lots of moving parts to setting that role up for success. Then when they start, my advice is start small. You can't tackle everything in a day, but you do have to have a bit of a lens to the future. A lot of times when you're hiring a first account manager, they're not only doing the work, but they're trying to build the processes. They're trying to figure out what account management looks like.
Yes.
So that's a great challenge for that person and a really exciting opportunity. But then where's it going to lead? Are they going to be the manager of the team if you end up hiring again? Are they the right person? Sometimes they hire an account manager, but maybe they're not the right person for like organizational transformation. So you've got to think about that element of the job in the beginning. And then you have to think about where do I start? So, yeah, that's sort of some initial mindset kind of project planning scope when you're launching an account management role that I would consider. And then we can get into tactics.
Yeah, so really, so think about the wider kind of implications. So for someone who is joining as an account manager then, so what would you recommend for them? So we have to assume that they'll have listened to your advice there, the MSP owner, and they've put some things in place and given some sort of thought to structure, but probably not going to be an expert in this field. So as an account manager, they're kind of going to need to carve their own path to a degree. Yep. What would you do sort of day one looking at, okay, right, where can I get some gains here and what do I need to make sure is in place for success? Where would you start if you started in that role?
If I started there, first thing, I'm just going to listen. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to try fact find as much as I can. I don't want to bring in any biases or preconceived notions like I've made that mistake before. When I used to work for Amex, big global company. Then I came and worked for a smaller company and I was like, well, we did this at Amex, so why don't you do it this way? Full of all this judgment, and I annoyed a lot of people because it was like I was criticizing them, which I wasn't really. I was just trying to kind of make suggestions, but I always framed it in the context of, well, Amex does it better. So it didn't come off great. Just think, what can I learn? Okay, I want to find out why the business started. What's the value proposition? Meet with everybody I'm going to work with. How do we work well together? What do you see the value of this role? Where do you think we can support each other best? Blah, 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 blah. Same with the clients. I'm going to reach out to a few of them and say, well, I'm going to introduce myself to all of them, but I may even pick the brains of a few of the bigger ones and say, the role's just started. We're shaping what the value is going to be. This is what I imagine, but I'd love to hear from you. What would you like to see from me? In this role, what kind of value do you think I can create and bring to our partnership?
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, because so many times you just think, okay, I know how to do this. We've come up with this new system and we're going to impose that on our customers. And so actually asking them
Yeah.
first is quite different.
Well, most people hire an account manager because they want to make more revenue and they want to keep their clients. It's very me focused. It's very like, oh, our churn is hemorrhaging. Oh, our revenue growth is underperforming. Nobody's really looking after accounts. Let's get somebody in. We need to make more money. Well, okay, that's obviously an important objective because there needs to be an ROI from this headcount. But your customers don't care. You don't introduce, James as saying, "This is James. He's here to squeeze more money out of you and make sure you don't go anywhere." Not a compelling value proposition for a customer, is it?
It's not. It's not.
So that's why you've got to think about the client, why the customer should care. Why does a customer give a crap about meeting with the account manager? Why do they think there's any importance in that partnership? Where are they going to see value? And that really comes from understanding them. So, earning the right to sell. You don't just jump in day one and go, "Hey, I've got a whole bag of tricks here. Why aren't you buying them?" You got to
Let's
understand.
dive into that, Warwick. So let's understanding them. Let's have a little sort of look at that one then. So what should we be
go into
doing
a brand new client? I'll say, "Listen, I'm brand new. I know nothing. I'm here with open eyes, open ears, ready to listen. My main objective is to optimize our partnership and make sure you squeeze absolute maximum juice from everything we can help you with so that you can get better results faster, so that you can deliver for your customers." So I'm all ears. Tell me, what are you currently working on? What kind of priorities have you got set for the next 6 months? What's in your way? What kind of obstacles do you face on the day-to-day? How do you normally manage your partners, suppliers? What kind of time do you have to spend in this category? What's one thing you wish I could change tomorrow about our product? What's your boss like? What kind of stuff does he expect you to deliver? What's going to get you your bonus next year? What kind of people do you work with? What other teams are you working with in your business that maybe I should be introduced to? I want to make sure that we, intercept any problems early, or I can keep an alert out if some support tickets come my way of some of these people or whatever it might be. I really want to just get into the weeds, It doesn't matter if it's directly relevant to me. The fact that they are working two people's jobs, or that there's always like a constant under resources, or they've just had 3 people leave, or they hate their boss who's a micromanager. They might not reveal all that information on day one, but this is the kind of level I want to get to ultimately, to think, right, I know exactly what I can help you with. There's a really good study done by Bain called the B2B Elements of Value. They uncovered 40 elements that are important to business customers. There's table stakes like meetings, like regulatory compliance or ethical standards or, product quality. Like they're kind of the basics. But then you move into this ease of doing business value. What I like about this pyramid is that it just gives you some ideas to think, to position to your customer, right? Maybe they just want time savings. Maybe they're just overwhelmed, overworked, and all they want to do is save time so they can get home early or at least leave on time. Maybe they've had a roller coaster of like outages and bugs and they just want stability. They're coming to you for like some peace and just going, okay, I just want something that works. I'm sick of all the last minute dramas with the platform. Maybe they just want configurability. Maybe they've just got lots of different stakeholders that want different things and they need to be able to configure. So you can start to kind of really zero in on, okay, if that's what they need, I'll focus on that. That's what I mean by kind of getting to understand the customer. Then you're understanding them, you're in a position to find out about their problems, you're in a position to get introduced to other problem owners in the business. Then from there, you reverse engineer, where does my solutions fit into this? How do I kind of think about what can I help the customer with? Sometimes it's a product. Sometimes it's just advice. You're an expert, you've been around the ropes, you know a few things. Maybe you're just saying, hey, listen, I did this with somebody else, nothing to do with our product, but you might want to consider this. Or I use this tool. In fact, just last week, I shared with a customer. We did it live, like we were talking about how we can optimize things with it. They're launching a new key account management, and we're talking about the quoting system, like trying to do quotes for customers. And they're doing like messy, anyway, it's really messy. And I just put into Google Firebase, please design a quote system for a pressure washing system for a small shopping mall. And within 2 minutes, after we had a bit of conversation, I went back, it had designed a beautiful quote system. It even had an AI suggestions box. And that's all the instructions I gave it. He was like, wow, I can't believe that. That's practically our quote thing. And you did that in no time.
I love that. There's 2 things there. There's one, it's almost like that trusted advisor element, isn't it? You need to have the bit of the advice around it. So I think the more you can provide advice to your customers, regardless of whether it ties to your product, the more value you're giving, the better. And the other thing is, it sounds like you've just spun up a competitor for us at Sales Builder. So
Maybe. But I'm
that's interesting. We'll keep an eye out.
I'm not a coder. I just happened to be doing some of this for my business. And hey, I was like, you know what? Well, if you've got time, I'll show you what I've done. Maybe you could have a look at this. It means nothing to me. I'm not going to earn a penny from it. But in terms of credibility, in terms of maybe engaging deeper on the stuff I can help them with, huge win for me. So yeah, keep that in mind. Don't just be like, what can I sell? What can I sell? I've got to push more stuff. So many times my boss has said to me, you got to sell 100,000 of this. We're upping your quotas by 20%. I'm like, well, where's the logic? You haven't even asked me what my client's budget is, what my client's, all the business wants is 20% growth. Now it's down to me to try to figure out how. That's a real challenge, but I can sell when I know what the problems are. Then it's a piece of cake. I'm like, you know what, you need this, and there's a price tag. So let's go for it. It's much easier.
I have so many questions around this, Warwick. So in terms of the sort of the stakeholders, so that's brilliant. That was really good information. So there's a whole load of stuff there. I think we're gonna have to produce maybe some sort of sheet that will outline those questions, because those questions came out of you so easily, and I know that's not going to be the same for the people listening.
Yeah.
But when we're thinking about who we're going to ask those questions to, there's two things. One, how do you deal with finding the right person in the business, and how do you know you've got the right person, and should you be talking to multiple people? I mean, we're dealing in the sort of the small to medium sized business arena here. Let's start with that one. Yeah, how do you identify the right stakeholder?
Well, I mean, there's going to be your key contact, the primary contact that's going to be the main gateway. You know, there might be procurement, it might be operations, it might just be an HR. I mean, it could be anybody, right? But there'll be that main person appointed to manage the partnership. And that's fine, day to day. The risk is if that person goes. I mean, I had a client, I worked on them for 3 years. I never even asked who their boss was. I had no clue. When she left, I was going to reception saying, who is so-and-so's boss? I had no idea. You know, that's bad. But what I'm looking for are people that make decisions. Who's going to sign off on any money that gets spent? I want to know who signs the contracts. Now, I don't have to have a deep relationship with them. I want to have been introduced. Maybe I'll check in with them every couple of months or twice a year, or invite them to the odd review. I want to know the people, the influential end users, the ones that are likely to complain, the ones that are just going to cause me grief. I really need to convert them into champions. And I also want to know the ones that are champions, the ones that love us, who are going to spread the word when I'm not there. They're kind of the main people I want to know. My main contact I want to know well. Influential stakeholders that are at those extremes, right? The ones that are constantly saying, why are we moved to this company? Why are we working with Warwick? I hate them. My friend works for this company. Why aren't we going there? They're the people I want to get a hold of. And the ones that say, I wouldn't move anywhere. I love them so much. They're the ones. And then anyone that can sign off on a check.
So almost, it's neutralising that risk, isn't it, I suppose, with those ones at the extreme.
It's amazing how quickly they can white ant your relationship. You know, I used to look after a construction company. They had something like 3,000 users. But the ones that caused me the most grief were the 4 executive assistants that sat outside the C-suite's office. They hated us because they were used to very high-touch white glove service, and they were being told to use online. So every chance they got, they would complain. And I kept getting dragged in every time because they would complain. And because they were the C-suite, and the C-suite didn't want to hear the noise, I was in and out of that office every other month. Nightmare. But everyone else was happy. But the perception amongst the C-suite were that we were awful because 4 people hated us. So
that's so difficult to manage, isn't it?
You root those people out.
This episode is sponsored by Sales Builder, where I work. I really wanted to tell you about us because I see so many MSP sales teams buried in admin instead of talking to customers and building relationships. We help you automate your sales process with standardized product catalogs and professional proposals. Our service matrix, or the white space module, that's the bit that shows you visually where the opportunities are in your customer base, from service gaps to upcoming renewals. Everything links directly with your PSA and, of course, your distributors. If you'd like to free up your sales team's time and spot more revenue opportunities, simply connect with me on LinkedIn or head to salesbuilder.com. Let's get back to it. Yeah. Just on that topic, how do you sort of reinforce the values? I know this is something that a lot of MSPs struggle with, is if they're doing a good job, the nature of IT is that they're not really called upon that much. So is there any advice you can give around how to sort of show the value that you're delivering, how to sort of reinforce that?
Look, you have to think outside from the outside of, your product, right? So perfect example, right? I'm working with somebody at the moment. They are in DNS management. And their challenge is it's set and forget, right? Once you set up your DNS, nobody cares. They're like, oh, well, it's working unless
That really is set and forget, that one, isn't it? Yeah.
unless there's a problem. Like, why would I be interested in talking to you? Right? So one of the things that we talked about is, all right, and you can do this. We did this together in ChatGPT with the deep research. Okay, let's talk about trends in DNS management. So instead of going, oh, well, DNS management, very basic stuff, these are the things we came up with: security and privacy evolution, DNS over HTTPS, AI-powered DNS security, automation as infrastructure. You've got multi-cloud DNS, edge native DNS resolution, certificate management. And what I did was I went, okay, Google, deep research. Please do some deep research on DNS trends, emerging trends in DNS management and hosting for 2025. Took about half an hour, came up with a huge amount of stuff. My next question was, please review these trends and match them against the current offerings of XYZ company, right? Their own company. And I had it search the pages, and then it came up with strong alignment, partial alignment, strategic development areas, and then there was some immediate messaging opportunities. Okay, future-proof certificate automation. Hey, listen, thought I'd reach out because there's a lot of people struggling to move beyond Let's Encrypt. We already automate enterprise certificates. How about we have a chat because, blah, blah, blah. How about moving from zero-touch certificate management, from free Let's Encrypt to enterprise? We can automatically validate, renew, and install. So suddenly the conversation's a lot different. You're linking it to emerging trends. Now you're a thought leader. Now you're a strategic partner. Now somebody's like, oh, I didn't even know. I had no idea these were things that were coming up that I should be thinking about. So even though something as boring and as set and forget as DNS management can suddenly have a twist and something that's engaging and interesting. So that's what I would recommend. It's super easy. Google deep research on ChatGPT, emerging trends in your space in 2025. Then the next question is match these against our current offer. Because you don't want to position something that you can't help them with. No point bringing up a topic and then they say, oh, I'm really interested. Oh, yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah, let's dive deeper. Well, that's perfect because, the MSPs will be listening to this, will be working with a multitude of sectors. So you could look at sector-specific trends overlaid with, obviously the technology that you provide. So that's brilliant. Yeah, really like that one. Mm-hmm. Listen, some of the people going into the room as an account manager will be perhaps less technical than their counterparts. So you tend to have, maybe an account management or customer success function, and then that's backed by pre-sales technical. Mm-hmm. When you're in the room and you're potentially going to end up having a sort of technical conversations, is there any sort of advice you'd give around that sort of credibility piece when you're walking in there? I know this is something that the owners often are worried about, that they would have probably obviously started the business, probably come from a technical background. This is easy for them. But when they hire someone who doesn't have that same expertise, what can that person be doing to provide that sort of credibility from the get-go?
Look, I think a few things. Number one, you don't have to have the answers on the spot. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They're like, oh, they've asked me a question, I need to tell them the answer. Think about more along the lines of, let me ask the right questions, the intelligent questions, so then when I go back to the sales engineer, I've got a full brief for them. I'm not wasting their time and the customer's time finding out the answers to questions I could have asked already. So, sales engineers, technical people, their time's limited. They're spread very thin. I don't want to drag them in and they go, so are you cloud-based or do you have your own server? I could do that, you know what I mean? As an account manager, I should be in a really good position to know the right questions to ask. Even if I don't know the answers, I know what a technical engineer needs to be able to give a proper briefing and to really evaluate the solution options and the deployment and the positioning of that. So you don't have to be an expert. You've got to have an interest. You can't just be, I'll just bring somebody in. A lot of account managers I've worked with have been like, oh, that's what they're for. I wasn't hired to be a technical expert. Well, you are. You're selling that product, so you need to know at least how it works, basic setup configuration options, the kind of qualification questions that are going to help define the implementation and sort of costs and all that. You've got to be able to do that. So you have to challenge yourself. Now, that might mean shadowing other people on calls, I'm going out to meet this client. Join the call, see what questions other people ask. Invest in learning about the product, setting yourself up in sandboxes or demos and playing around. I always use the product that my clients use, even if I'm not trying to figure out stuff so I know where things are. It takes time, but don't look at it from the lens of being a subject matter expert, looking at it as somebody that's really just, different. A bit like when you're you've got the recruiter that might be hiring for a job, right? They know enough to ask the screening questions, to review the CV, to understand whether they're a good match for the role that's available. But ultimately, it's the hiring manager, the person they're reporting into, that's going to do the final interviews and decide if that person gets the job. So think of yourself like the recruiter, the one that like does all the initial groundwork to determine what you need to pass through to the hiring manager or the tech team, whatever. That's kind of the way I think about it.
Yeah, so you can't abdicate responsibility totally. You need to make some effort to have a working knowledge so you're able to be in the room there, but don't also feel the pressure to know absolutely everything because you have got the backing of the team. In terms of the relationship between sort of sales and then pre-sales or technical, is there anything you think you can do to sort of grease the wheels there? Because that can sometimes be a tricky one to manage with different priorities and so on.
Few things. Obviously, like I said at the outset, sit down with everybody. How can we work best together? I want to make sure that there's no friction, that we can help each other out, that we both have our clients' interests at heart and the business, our company. So what do we do to make sure that it's as smooth sailing as possible? You tell me.
On a regular basis, then I guess is that something? I mean,
I
it's
check
not
in
a one
every
and
so
done
often,
thing.
but definitely when you're beginning. But yeah, I do it all the time. If I encounter a problem, like that'll be my initial thing, right? I'm going to have an interview with everybody. Then a few months down the track, if I'm encountering problems, I'm going to go, listen, can we meet again? Because the last few times we've had some interactions, there's been some challenges. I want to just like revisit what you're trying to achieve, what I need to achieve, make sure we're aligned so that we can get on the same page. It's not casting blame, not pointing fingers. I'm just like, I'm here to help you. You're here to help me. Okay, maybe we've gone different directions. Let's reconverge back to the middle. So I think I always look at it like that. A lot of people get upset. They're like, I hate sales, or I hate them, or they're awful, or they're always. I'm like, you know what? I assume good intent from everybody until proven otherwise. I assume that they didn't do this deliberately. They're not trying to screw me over. They're not trying to be rude. They're not trying to waste my time. What they need from me is stronger direction. I need to own yes or no. I can't just say yes to everything. I need to, if they ask me for a meeting, I'm going to say, what do you want me to cover? What's on the agenda? What contribution do you want me to make? If they say it can't answer any of those things, I'm going to say no. Versus what I used to do was like, sure, when do you want me there? You got to own the part of like getting the information you need to make sure you can add value. And then I think it's important to have a handoff checklist, especially with sales. The handoff checklist I've created has something like 160 items on it.
Wow. Okay.
Before we even
give me a few of those then. A few examples of those.
Huge. Like, okay, let me just bring it up. But you've got things like, what was the negotiation points? Like, what did they hate? I don't want you to just tell me what the contract is and like what the pricing is. Where did you have the sticking points? What did they reluctantly agree to, but you had a real tough trouble convincing them on? Because then I know later what that mindset was. I know that's a sensitive topic. If it took me 3 weeks to negotiate that price, I'm like, okay, that's probably poking the bear if I bring up anything like that. It helps me make sure that I'm not reselling, that I'm not going in with an assumption, oh, this client loves us versus this client was dragged kicking and screaming to sign this contract, etc. I've had a lot of misinformation or misunderstandings when a client has started. So I want a briefing with the sales lead. I want them to personally tell me what happened. I don't want them to just go new client in the CRM and then I don't know anything about it. I want to know what role they want to play in onboarding. Are they going to be on every call? Are they just going to be at their launch call? Are they not going to be on any calls? I want them to give me a briefing on who they interacted with, what their opinions were. Do they love us, hate us? I want to understand the contract length, any service level agreements, any penalties, were there any non-standard terms, things you slipped in there because, the client insisted. That's not like what I normally would do. Have you waived things? Are there fees that I thought we should be charging and you're not charging? I don't care, but I want to know. Why did you waive them? Who are our champions? What does the client want to do? Why did they come to us? Brief me through the RFP or your proposal so I can really understand. What are they excited about? What of all of the stuff really gets their juices flowing? Like what gets them the most excited? What were they really unsure about or think it was maybe below best practice or you had struggles with? All that kind of stuff. Even like, was it competitive? Were we bidding against other people? Did we beat out 10 people? Were we the only bidders? All of this stuff just helps me understand what I need to know. And also even things like, I want to make clear to the client at the very beginning who I am. Because what often happens is they keep going back to the salesperson for problems. because they don't understand that I am the owner. The salesperson is gone. So I like to have a formal handoff. The way, like in front of the customer, I'm like, great, this is Warwick. He's your account manager. He's here to optimize the way that you work with us and make sure that everything goes well and that we continue to create value and you get the most from partnering with us. This is goodbye from me. It's been a pleasure to work with you and bring you, get you to this point. I'm obviously around in the background. If Warwick needs anything, he'll help me out, but he'll come and reach me. But for now, all the best. That way, I'm positioned as the owner. I'm positioned strategically as a decision maker and an authority, and I don't have the client keep going back to the salesperson behind my back or not sure why they should be talking to me. Things like that. So lots of stuff you could put into a handoff document that most people wouldn't think about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think the trick there is that obviously there's that kind of euphoria of winning the sale and it's like, hey, happy days and on to the next one. And all that stuff, that detail can so easily be forgotten. So it's brilliant to put that into some sort of structured list and a visible handover. I think that's
sales normally want to jump, that they're ready to move on. I'm like, if you won the business and you're getting commission, the least you can do is spend half an hour on a call to say goodbye and set me up for success. And maybe another half an hour to run me through any outliers and big things I need to know. And similarly, if you're the founder or the owner, you've got to also learn to, I even did a podcast episode, how to be, I'll send you a link to it. It's quite a good one. It's all about the founders letting go. Because what often happens is they own the business. They had this customer from the very beginning and now they can't let go. And they've got an account manager, but they're still meddling. They're still involved. They still can't quite say, it's not my job. It's this person's. There's lots of emotional things to think about when you're the owner founder and trying to move away from being the kind of key contact for the customer and move it to your account manager, and also practical things about the handoff and how you communicate to the customer why you're moving on and why they should be talking to the account manager, not the owner. It's not a demotion, it's just the business growing and you need to focus on business development activities and product development so that you can stay ahead and stay focused on, bringing innovation to you, not, day-to-day stuff. That's what the account manager's for. So things like that.
There'll be so many people listening to this, Warwick, going, "Oh, I think that's me. That's me." Honestly, it's such a typical thing that I see. Okay, listen,
you're undermining the account manager. Like if you go into meetings constantly, and then you take over, and suddenly the account manager whose meeting it was is sitting there twiddling their thumbs, or the client calls you, and instead of saying, "Oh, that's not my area, go talk to Warwick. He's your account manager. I'll transfer you, or I'll let him know that you called. He'll call you back." You say, "Sure, we can do that." Suddenly, there's mixed messages. The client continues to think it's you because you're interrupting with decisions or taking over conversations. So it's really important that you stay focused on, if I'm out of the account, I'm out of the account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, otherwise the lines are definitely going to get blurred. Yeah. Listen, we're coming to the end of our time together, but I'd like to just get from you a few mistakes that you see. What are the top, let's say, 3 mistakes that you see account managers make all the time when you're coaching some of your clients and things that you think, okay, actually, this is an area where if they just change that, they'd probably be dramatically more successful. So we kind of want to convert this into quick wins is where I'm going with this.
Okay, number 1, I see this all the time. I say this all the time. Managing up. My mantra is treat your boss like your number 1 client. You can't expect every boss to be the greatest boss you ever had. Like they might not be, you might be working in a fast-paced startup or an MSP that's moving into high growth mode, and you've got an owner, operator, founder, CEO, CTO, all the same person, and they're trying to do 10 things at once. And you're like, well, he's never set a meeting with me, or she hasn't, she's useless. I can never get her time. You have to take control of your own onboarding. You've got to take control of the boss. You've got to go in there. This is what I need. This is what I need. Does this work for you? What are you working on? How can I help you? You let me know. I'm here to make sure that you get what you need from me, but I'm also here to help and pitch in where I can. Blah, 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 blah. You can't just sit there and moan and groan. That's number 1. I have to see it all the time. Every single coaching client I've ever had has the biggest problems with their boss. If your boss isn't that great, accept it. You can't change your boss, but you can change how you interact with them. And you think, what do I need from my boss? I need him to give me or her to give me what I want and stay out of my way.
Love that. Manage up.
Manage up. Number 2, going in with why me, not why you. So, like I said, invest the time, earn the right to sell. Ask your client all about them, figure out their problems, meet the right people, share information, industry trends, things that are outside your direct product. Establish yourself as an expert and credible. Then, when you say, hey, you should be buying this stuff, they're like, you know what, you're right. Because they know that you know them. So it makes sense. You can have a conversation. And number 3 is accept what you're given, right? Especially in a growth business or a technical business, an MSP. There's lots of things that you would say, why don't we do this? Everybody else has this. How come we don't? This is BS. Like, I'm so sick of like this behind the scenes manual crap. Like, I'm over it. And then you start doing workarounds. You start patching things up because you're hearing the stuff from the customer and they're screaming at you, and then you're relaying the message and nobody's doing anything, or it's just like on the wish list. Accept it. Make peace. If the product doesn't do everything, it doesn't. Just say, listen to the client. This is what we have right now. It's, this is the way you can use it to get kind of what you want. If there's an enhancement you want, I'm happy to put it forward. We'll definitely, if other customers are looking for it, put it on the roadmap. But for now, this is the way it is. But let's look beyond that to what it actually does for you, not what it can't do. Let's look at what it does do. Instead of me now doing spreadsheets and stressing out and doing all this extra manual stuff. So make peace. I'm not saying you have to accept them. You can constructively put forward enhancement requests, review systems and processes, internal processes to try and eliminate steps or make them more efficient. But you don't have to take it on and like make it your personal mission and get emotionally upset just because something doesn't do what you want it to do. So these are my 3 things. Manage up.
Yeah, that's wonderful. No, I love those. I think that's so important because you can easily end up stretching and causing more problems by trying to, sort of make the product into something that it just isn't, and over-promising and under-delivering and all that kind of stuff. Is there one around sort of time saving at all, out of interest? Is there some? Do you see the account managers sort of getting stuck with sort of time wasted in the wrong areas? Just as okay.
Number 1, I do email 3 times a day. I do morning around. I mean, if you're commuting, you can do your email on the train or the bus. But if let's say you're working from home, right? Typical day, I might log in at 8:30. I will do emails till say 9:30, 10. Then I will do deep work. I shut my email down. I'm not looking. I will do whatever I need to do on my list. Then at lunch, I might pop in there for half an hour. And then I will do an hour or so at the end of the day, around 4-ish. That's it. That is still 3 or 4 hours a day on email. Clients have my email address. Clients have my phone number. They can text me. They can message me or call me. My internal teams have Slack or Teams chat if I'm available. And they can call me too. So nothing is, if it's that urgent between 10 and 2 and the building burns down, that's on them. They should have called you. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That to me is number 1. You gotta really be disciplined with your email. Otherwise, you're just working from your inbox all day. And the other thing related to email, you don't have to respond immediately. I used to be guilty of this. An email would come in, I've responded in 30 seconds. Straight away. I'm like,
just to show your efficiency.
Yeah. But what I'm doing is creating the beast. Now the clients are expecting instant turnarounds. Yes. I'm giving urgency where there is none. I'm replying so quickly to inane requests. I'm doing things that they could do themselves. Or I am taking on somebody else's disorganization where they're like, Warwick, I need this urgently by 3 p.m. They might have had it for a week. That's not my problem. So I'm now going to either renegotiate that deadline or make it very clear, this is a one-off. Next time you better give me more notice. Or if it's a client, I might say, I can do it, but I'm going to have to charge you. That's an urgent request now. It's going to be $100. Whatever. But I want to make sure that appropriate weight is given to the requirements of the request. I don't want to be jumping on an email in 30 seconds if it's like, oh, can you let me know, the phone number for support? It's on my website. It's on the website. It's on every email invoice you get. Like, I'll give that to you like this afternoon. I'm not going to do it in 30 seconds. You know what I mean?
What I'm hearing is the voice of experience here, because I think if you could easily fall into these traps, it's the same thing with over-promising what the product, just make peace with what the product does. And it's the same thing with email, isn't it? If you have that confidence to say, no, these are the parameters within which I work, within which the product operates, I'm not going to deviate, because if I do, ultimately, the whole thing's going to become a mess on both regards. So
set some boundaries, and, it's really, really important, because problem with account management is it's a dumping ground. That's where everything, it's like the bottom drawer of the kitchen. That's like where everything goes nobody else wants or nobody knows what to do with. They're like, oh, well, you're customer facing. You own the customer. You can have it. You have to be like, whoa. Like, I'm not finance. I'm not scanning receipts and then doing, expense requests. Like, that's not me. You can do that yourself. I'm not product. I'm not taking in, blah, blah, blah. It's very easy to suddenly find yourself doing a lot of non-core stuff or a lot of other people's work. So you've got to be really alert to that.
Warwick, it feels like an absolute privilege to chat to you because it's very unusual that we have someone with so much experience in the account management space, and it's such a critical part of what all the MSPs listening are doing. So I can't thank you enough. We've got a few final segments to go through in our podcast, in our show. The first one is, have you got a question you want to put to the next guest? So it could be anything around your space, anything you like, anything you fancy being answered in the next episode that you're gonna check out.
Or if we're on the topic of account management, I would be interested to know if you want account management, you want to champion it. How are you going to champion it? Like, if you're the owner, if you're the manager of the team, if you're the account manager, if you are sales, how would you promote the vision of account management and the value of account management to the rest of your team?
Excellent. That's a really good one because it's something that's much needed.
Hey, there's a new account manager that just started last week. I want you guys to help him out because. Finish the
Perfect.
sentence.
That's the framing that's the framing sentence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our next segment is called Industry Manure. And this is your chance to dispel a myth or basically say, what do you think is a load of that you basically kind of hear banded around as advice that's just absolute nonsense? And in your case, I guess it's going to be around account management.
Well, it will. And it's that, sales are hunters, account managers are farmers. I hate that because, firstly, I'm not really into weaponry, battling, war, hunting as analogies for sales. I think we've gone past that machismo. I think it's also a bit misogynistic. Are women going to be out there battling at war? Man, let's retire that. Let's give more positive ways to think about acquiring business. But let me tell you, trying to grow business, customers come to you, signing a contract with sales thinking, I don't need to spend any more. They've told me this is the answer to all my problems. Why would I spend another penny? Right? That's the mindset of the existing customer. So it is not easy to grow that account, get them to upsell, get them to cross-sell, get them to stay with you at increased pricing. So salespeople are just as much in the hunting game as anybody else. They just have to do it on their own land. That's all.
Perfect. That's an excellent one. So I came across you actually on YouTube. You've got a fantastic YouTube channel. You run the Cam Club. You've got loads of things going on. I don't know how you do quite so much as you do. You really have a real content factory going on. Give us a yell from the barn, a plug for what it is you're up to these days and where you'd like some eyeballs.
So basically, I've been in account management for 25 years. I have worked in the trenches. Everything I do is from the perspective of an account manager. It's realistic, it's time tested, and I have coaching, consulting, and training. They're my three practice lines. I can work with corporate organizations developing custom programs, or people as individual contributors or teams can join the Cam Club, which is my online learning-based community, self-paced learning, courses, training, one-to-one coaching, all of that. So check out the Cam Coach, check out the Cam Club, and take a look. If you're interested, hit me up.
Warwick, thank you so much for your time. I'll make sure we put all the links to some of the things you mentioned in there. I think we're going to have to pull out some of these like sort of checklists and stuff maybe, and maybe just do a couple of little battle cards for people because there was just so much gold in a short space of time. I'll make sure you're all linked up anyway in the show notes. But pleasure to have you on. Wish you all the best and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
And that is that. I was watching the clock during that interview and I had so many more questions. It was quite frustrating, really, that we stick to this kind of this short, punchy format. But, that's what you come for. You like it actionable, tactical, and so on. So hopefully we can speak to him again. But anyway, hopefully it's got you thinking about the account management side of things. We had three key takeaways there to really hopefully get you to transform your account management approach. The first one was those relationship foundations, so spending the time to understand your client's real problems before you go in there pitching those solutions. Also, I loved the bit about the stakeholder handoffs. That's something we can all learn from, getting a structured checklist in place so it's not just sell and forget. Second, you've got that manage up to your boss element. So think about your boss as the biggest client. Obviously, if you are the boss, then think about it in the context of one of your employees. And then there's managing your time in email to make sure that you're not wasting valuable hours and you've got some sort of guardrails there. And then finally, the advice I really liked was that using trends like the industry research trends to become the advisor that these people can't ignore. It's such an important layer, that wrapper of advice, of guidance, of understanding. You really get the space and you're not just in there chasing a renewal or an upsell. That is it for this episode of Harvest. If you found this useful, all the links we mentioned are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please do leave us a review and share it with a friend, or even better, someone else in the industry who you know would get value from it. Until next time, happy harvesting.